Tycoon shut out his pregnant wife, but when she vanished, he was left begging for her return. The first light of dawn filtered through the floor-to-ceiling windows of the penthouse office, painting the polished marble floor in pale gold. From his leather armchair, Lee Min-jae surveyed the cityscape of Seoul below, towering skyscrapers fading into mist, traffic pulsing like a living thing. He took a slow breath, feeling the familiar surge of control and possibility that came with each new day. "Good morning, sir," his executive assistant, Park Hyun-soo, whispered, stepping lightly into the silent room. He carried a slim tablet, its screen alive with stock tickers and headlines. "Your meeting with the board is in 30 minutes. They're awaiting your comments on the Grand Horizon development." Min-jae nodded, fingertips brushing the smooth surface of his mahogany desk. "Thank you, Hyun-soo. And how is the press responding to yesterday's earnings report?" A crease formed between Hyun-soo's brows. "Praise mostly, but there's chatter about your refusal to expand into the Gangnam Arts District. Some say you're missing a unique opportunity." Min-jae's eyes narrowed for a fraction of a second, a flicker of irritation beneath the veneer of calm. "Art is unpredictable. I build legacies that endure. Paintings fade." He straightened, shoulders squared as though bearing an invisible weight. "Proceed with the board. I'll join you shortly." Alone again, he rose and moved toward the window, hands clasped behind his back. The city's heartbeat mirrored his own. Relentless, ambitious, ever pushing forward. Yet in that reflection, he saw only the polished facade of success. No hint of doubt, no whisper of softness. A subtle ping alerted him to an incoming video call. He tapped the screen, and the face of his mother, Madame Huang, appeared in her ornate study. Silver strands of hair caught the morning light as she settled into her gilded chair. "Min-jae," she said, voice cool and measured. "Have you forgotten our family council this afternoon? Your father insists you attend." He inhaled, steadying himself. "Mother, I have commitments." "The family's honor is a commitment," she interjected, lips curving in a polite smile. "Your father is prepared to reconsider the succession plan if you continue to neglect your duties." Min-jae's jaw tightened. Memories flickered back. A childhood spent in rigid etiquette, every misstep punished. He'd sworn to himself that he would never be vulnerable, never allow sentiment to derail his purpose. "I understand," he said at last, voice flat. "I will be there." She inclined her head. "Excellent." And Min-jae, her expression softened for a heartbeat. "Seo-yun is expecting soon. Be mindful of her condition." He felt a faint pang, a rustling of emotions he refused to acknowledge. "Of course." Then the screen went dark. He closed his eyes. Lee Min-jae prided himself on his precision. Every deal, every project, every contract meticulously calculated. He built skyscrapers that kissed the clouds and portfolios that dwarfed nations. Yet as he turned away from the window, a single thought lingered. The fragile life growing inside the woman he barely had time to see. Across town, in a bright but modest studio, Han Seo-yun rose from her easel, fingertips dotted with paint. She was 29, her hair chestnut waves cascading over her shoulders like a waterfall. The canvas before her held swirling hues of sunrise, an ode to hope she longed to feel but could not. Her phone buzzed. Min-jae's name on the screen. She hesitated, thumb hovering over reject. The last call had ended in another argument. Her plea to showcase her art met with his cold decree to stay hidden. Yet this morning felt different. She swiped to accept. "Good morning, my love," she whispered when he appeared. "Seo-yun," he replied, eyes dark and distant. "Are you resting properly?" Her heart fluttered, concern finally. "I am. Doctor says everything is fine." He nodded, relief and something softer flickering in his gaze. "That's all I care about." She closed her eyes, savoring the rare warmth in his tone. "I miss you," she confessed. "I miss us." Min-jae swallowed. His training forbade displays of weakness, but in that moment he felt the weight of her words. "We will find balance," he said quietly. "After the Grand Horizon closes, I promise. Her lips curved in a small smile. That's all I need. He ended the call before his throat tightened. Alone once more, he stared at the blank side of the phone, haunted by the echo of her voice. In the mirror across the room, he caught his reflection. A man carved from ambition, standing atop a gilded empire. Yet beneath the tailored suit and the unflinching stare was a heart untested, trembling at the thought of loss. The elevator chimed, and Hyun-soo returned. The board is ready, sir. Min-jae tapped his lapel, smoothing the crease of his tie. Lead the way. As the doors slid shut, he glanced once more at the skyline. The Seo-yun inhaled deeply, eyes lingering on the painting. A gentle swirl of pastel clouds against a dawn sky. It felt like a promise she couldn't yet reach. She set her palette aside and rose, folding her silk kimono wrap around her growing belly. With measured steps, she crossed to her phone perched on the windowsill and tapped, "Message. Jiwoo, are you free? I need someone to talk to." Within seconds, a new message appeared. "Always. Coffee shop in 10? She smiled, relief softening her features. She slipped on a wool coat, careful not to wrinkle her skirt, and locked the studio door behind her. The crisp spring air greeted her as she stepped onto the sidewalk, each breath tasting of possibility and fear. 10 minutes later, she pushed open the door to a quiet cafe on a side street. Warm light pooled around low tables, and the scent of roasted beans filled the space. Jiwoo looked up from her laptop, eyebrows knitting in concern when she saw Seo-yun's pale cheeks. "Hey!" Jiwoo said, rising to hug her. "You look exhausted." Seo-yun sank into a chair, gingerly adjusting her wrap. "It's nothing really, just the doctor's comment about premature labor. He said stress could trigger it." Jiwoo's lips parted. "You should rest more, Yoen." "Min-jae isn't helping, is he?" Seo-yun's gaze dropped to her hands, folded neatly on the table. "He's under pressure. You know how he is with business. He thinks any distraction, my art, my feelings, will jeopardize everything." A wave of frustration trembled through her. "I thought marriage meant partnership," she whispered. "But lately I feel like a liability." Across the cafe, the barista finished steaming milk and glanced at them. Jiwoo cleared her throat, offering Seo-yun a gentle smile. "You're not a liability. You're creating life. That's strength." Tears pricked Seo-yun's eyes. She blinked them away. I need him to see me. Not the tycoon's wife, but me, Han Seo-yun." Jiwoo reached across the table and squeezed her hand. "He will. Sometimes people are so used to one version of us that they need a moment to remember the rest." "Do you think I should call him?" Seo-yun's voice shook. "I'm so lonely." Jiwoo paused, choosing her words. "You could, but maybe let him miss you first. Make him realize you're not just an accessory to his empire." Seo-yun frowned, uneasy. "And if I vanish?" Their eyes met, and for a heartbeat the cafe felt suspended. Then Jiwoo's expression softened. "I won't let you vanish, but take a day for yourself. Go somewhere he can't reach you. Paint that sunrise on a new canvas, and I'll come pick you up for lunch." Seo-yun exhaled, a mix of anxiety and hope coursing through her. "Tomorrow I'll go to Jeju. Just me and the baby." Jiwoo smiled, relief flooding her features. "Good. Send me the ferry schedule, and I'll meet you there." As they stood to leave, Seo-yun felt a sudden thrill of rebellion. Maybe Jiwoo was right. Perhaps absence would jar Min-jae's heart. Perhaps in the silence she created, he would hear the echo of her laughter, her pain, her longing. Back in the penthouse, Lee Min-jae settled at the head of the boardroom table. His gaze flicked to the empty seat beside him. A small pang of guilt he crushed beneath his practiced composure. He laid out figures, projections, and contingencies, his voice steady, precise. But midway through, the door opened and Park Hyun-soo slipped inside with a discreet envelope. "Sir, this arrived for you." Min-jae's brow rose. "From who?" "Unknown. Just for Lee Min-jae." He slid it open. Inside was a single photograph. Seo-yun, outside the cafe this morning, bundled in her kimono wrap, her eyes downcast as she spoke to someone off-frame. On the back, scribbled in delicate handwriting, "Balance is not beyond reach." A hush fell over the room. Min Jae's fingers trembled as he studied the image. Her silhouette outlined by afternoon light, her expression a portrait of vulnerability. The board members shifted, uncertainty rippling beneath their suits. Min Jae cleared his throat, folding the photo and tucking it into his jacket. "Let's continue," he said, voice low but steady. Yet inside, every pulse thundered. Suspense coiled in his chest. Why had someone sent this? Was it a threat or a plea? Later that evening, after the city lights flickered on like stars reborn on concrete, Min Jae stood once more at his windows, the photograph before him. His reflection stared back. An emperor with an empire, yet powerless to steady the heart inside his chest. He pressed the photo against his heart, and in the hush of his penthouse, he whispered, "Come back to me." She let it ring twice before silencing it. Min Jae's number. But her resolve wavered, and she pressed answer. "Seo Yun." His voice crackled through the line, low and urgent. "Please pick up." Her heart hammered. "I'm here," she whispered, voice barely above the sea breeze. I saw your message. Why didn't you tell me you were leaving?" His tone was equal parts relief and reproach. She swallowed. "I needed space. You weren't listening to me in Seoul." There was a pause. Then, "I didn't realize how badly I was pushing you away." His breath hitched. "I'm sorry." Tears blurred her vision. "Sorry isn't enough when I feel trapped." Silence save for the distant gulls. "I hate knowing you're alone," he said finally. "When is your ferry back?" Seo Yun closed her eyes. "Not for 2 days. I need time to paint and to think." A long exhale. "All right." His voice trembled with emotion. "But please stay somewhere safe. Call me if anything happens." She offered a small, sad smile to the empty ocean. "I will." And she hung up, clutching the phone like a lifeline, unsteady between fear and relief. Back in Seoul, the boardroom lights burned bright. Lee Min-jae sat at the head of the table, hands folded before him. Park Hyun-soo cleared his throat, sliding a dossier in front of Min-jae. "Sir, the Jeju trip has leaked online. Social media is speculating that Mrs. Lee has fled the city under duress." Min-jae's jaw clenched. "Who's responsible?" "We don't know, but investors are uneasy. Mr. Han from Pacific Trust called, wants assurances." Hyun-soo's voice was calm, but Min-jae saw the tension beneath. "They're questioning the stability of your leadership." Min-jae stood, pacing. The skyscrapers beyond the window seemed to mock him, solid structures built on shaky ground. He closed his eyes, picturing Seo Yun's face on the balcony, vulnerable and free. "If they pull out," he murmured, "the Grand Horizon project collapses." Hyun-soo placed a steady hand on his arm. "Balance is everything, sir. You must address this personally." Min-jae's eyes snapped open. "I will." A few hours later, Seo Yun painted in a small studio room overlooking a hidden cove. Each brushstroke poured her mixture of longing and anger onto the canvas. As she worked, her phone screen lit up again, this time a text from Jin-woo. "Min-jae's office called me. He's desperate. I think he's going to the airport." Her pulse quickened. Should she rush back? But the thought of returning to the city that felt like a cage made her chest tighten. She dipped her brush into a darker shade of blue, adding depth to the waves on her canvas. Downstairs, the innkeeper knocked at her door. "Miss Han, your ferry tickets arrived." Someone delivered them. Seo Yun took the envelope with trembling hands. Inside were 2 tickets for the evening's 6 p.m. ferry and a single boarding pass for the 10 a.m. flight tomorrow. No note. Her breath hitched. She stared at the empty space beside the second ticket. Had Min-jae sent it? Or someone else? At Gimpo Airport, Min-jae stood before the check-in counter. The photo Ji-woo had shown him frames in his mind. He clutched the extra boarding pass, the second half of an unspoken plea. His reflection in the polished steel of the kiosk showed a man on the brink of losing more than construction bids. His heart, his wife, the child he'd never hold. Park Hyun-soo approached quietly. "Sir, Pacific Trust is on hold until midnight. They want a press statement." Min-jae nodded, voice hollow. "Draft that statement. I'll approve it en route." Hyun-soo hesitated. "You're really going to Jeju?" Min-jae's eyes burned with determination. "I have to." As dusk fell over Jeju, Seo-yeon drove a rented scooter along the coastal road, the salty wind tangling her hair. Her heart pounded with anticipation and dread. At the terminal, she spotted him. Min-jae, tall and immaculately dressed, standing under the neon sign that read, Jeju Ferry. Their eyes met across a throng of travelers. Time stretched thin as he strode toward her, each step echoing in her chest. When he reached her, he didn't say a word. Instead, he pulled her into his arms, and for a moment everything else, the scandal, the empire, the project, was gone. Her voice trembled. "Why did you come?" He pressed his forehead against hers, breath warm against her skin. "Because without you, none of it means anything." Tears slipped down her cheeks. "I was afraid." He lifted her chin, eyes clouded with emotion. "I'm sorry I made you feel that way. Promise, I'm here now." Behind them, the ferry horn sounded, a reminder that choices carried consequences. Seo-yeon pulled back slightly, meeting his gaze with fierce vulnerability. "Then prove it, not with words, but with us." Min-jae nodded, determination crystallizing in his expression. "I will." Inside the cabin, he closed the door behind them and turned to her, voice hushed. "I know I've built walls around my heart," he began, stepping closer so that she could feel the tension in his chest. "But I never realized they were made of fear." Seo-yeon tilted her head, the ocean breeze slipping through the slight crack of the window carrying the scent of salt and possibility. "Fear of what?" she asked softly, placing her hand over his. He swallowed, gaze dropping to where her fingers met his. "Fear of being abandoned." His voice cracked on the last word, and he closed his eyes as if recalling a nightmare. "My mother, she left when I was 6. One morning, I woke up and she was gone. No note, no explanation, just emptiness." Seo-yeon's heart clenched. She reached up and brushed his cheek with trembling fingertips. "Oh," she whispered. "I'm so sorry." He shook his head, a sad smile hovering. "It shaped everything. My father turned cold after that. Taught me that weakness had no place in our world. Tears were for the powerless. So I learned to bury every emotion, to control every outcome, to never let anyone get close enough to hurt me again." He glanced around the cabin, as though its plush walls might have ears. "Even you." Her breathing caught. "But I love you," she said, voice fierce. "The real you, not the tycoon everyone sees. And I need to know you trust me with your heart." He closed the distance between them until their foreheads touched. "I do," he said, though the tremor in his tone betrayed him. "I'm trying." He inhaled, steeling himself. "When you disappeared, I realized how hollow all my victories feel without you by my side. But I was terrified. Terrified that if I let myself care too much, I could lose it all again." Seo-yeon's eyes glistened in the cabin's soft light. "Then let me in. Show me your fears, and I'll help you face them." He searched her face, seeing only unwavering love. "There's more," he murmured. "When we married, I promised my father I would never let family scandal tarnish our name. He insisted that any sign of discord would weaken our standing. So I silenced every argument, every plea for understanding, in the boardroom and at home." She slid her hand from his cheek to his chest, feeling the steady thrum of his heartbeat beneath his tailored shirt. "You don't have to keep that promise to him," she said gently. "Our family is the one we make together." He closed his eyes and let out a slow breath. "I know, but the board wants a statement tonight. Investors are restless." His shoulders sagged. "Even now, I'm torn between duty and love." Seo-yeon reached up and pressed a kiss to his lips. "Then put us first. I'm asking you, as Min-jae, the man I love, not as Mr. Lee, the tycoon." Outside the window, the sky deepened to indigo, and the ferry's engines thrummed like a whispered promise of safe harbor. Min-jae cradled her face in his hands. "I will," he vowed. "Tomorrow I'll cancel all meetings. I'll be with you every step of the way." His voice caught as he added, "I want to be the father our child deserves. Present, loving, unafraid." Tears spilled down Seo-yun's cheeks, and she smiled through them, relief and joy mingling in her chest. "That means everything to me." She paused as the baby stirred against her stomach, a gentle kick like a soft drumbeat. "Do you feel that?" Min-jae placed his palm over hers, pressing it against her belly. The movement was small but potent, a reminder of the life they had created together. "I feel it," he said, awe coloring his voice. "Our world is changing." The cabin door rattled softly. Park Hyun-soo's voice drifted through the crack. "Sir, the statement is ready. Investors are waiting." Min-jae hesitated, torn between two loyalties. He met Seo-yun's gaze, her eyes steady, unwavering. He nodded, signaling Hyun-soo to wait. Then he turned back to Seo-yun, brushing a stray lock of hair from her face. "I'm making a different statement tonight." She arched an eyebrow, curious. "What do you mean?" He took a deep breath, chest rising and falling like the tides outside. "I'm telling the world that family comes first, that no project, no empire, is worth sacrificing the people you love." He touched her belly again, determination blazing. "Tomorrow, I'll announce my hiatus. No speeches, no press releases. Just me, you, and our baby." Her lips trembled in a radiant smile. "That's the most powerful declaration you could ever make." He closed his eyes, letting the gravity of his promise settle into his bones. "And I promise," he whispered, voice thick, "I will spend every day proving it." As they took their seats, a hush fell over the assembled dignitaries. Cameras flashed and whispers fluttered like moths. Min-jae cleared his throat, rising to address the crowd. "Thank you for gathering tonight to celebrate our new maternal health initiative." He began, voice steady, the weight of his promise fresh in his chest. "We dedicate this project to every mother and child, to every family that deserves a future built on hope." His gaze shifted to Seo-yun, and for a heartbeat he saw her smile glow like a lighthouse in the storm. When applause faded, Seo-yun rose, envelope clutched against her heart. "If I may," she said, voice soft but clear. The silence pressed around them as she opened the portfolio and laid out her sketches. Gentle, swirling portraits of mothers cradling newborns beneath blossoming branches. The crowd stirred. It was the first time they'd seen her art. Min-jae's heart swelled with pride, until he caught sight of her final drawing. A portrait of their unborn child, features soft, eyes wide with wonder. Gasps rippled through the room. "She's talented," murmured one guest. Another leaned in to whisper, "Is this Mrs. Lee's work?" Seo-yun's breath trembled, but she lifted her chin. "These are my visions for a series I hope to exhibit next spring," she announced, voice trembling with excitement. "I want to paint the journey of motherhood, our journey." She turned to Min-jae. "I'd be honored if you stood by my side." A hush, then a ripple of polite applause. But Min-jae felt a chill coil in his chest. He stepped forward, his smile polite but his eyes hardening. "Seo-yun," he said, voice low enough to carry across the silent hall. "This is a charity event, not an art show." He placed a gentle hand on the table's edge. "Your project, it's wonderful, but now is not the time." She swallowed, hurt flickering across her face. "Is there ever a time to show what I feel? To share our story?" Her voice broke, and a few guests exchanged awkward glances. Min-jae's jaw clenched. He lowered his voice further, though every guest could hear. "My reputation and this foundation cannot risk being overshadowed by personal endeavors. Investors expect focus. Distractions could jeopardize everything we've built." Seo-yun's hands trembled on the portfolio. "So my art is a distraction?" Her voice echoed through the room, sudden like a storm breaking over calm sea. He paused, searching her eyes, but in that moment, the mask of the tycoon slipped. "I'm protecting you," he said quietly, yet the words thundered. I can't let you put yourself out there where anyone might see weakness. Tears gathered in her eyes. Weakness? My art is my strength. And this is our story, our strength. A tense silence settled. Min Jae's breath hitched. The world narrowed to the distance between them. Guests shifted uncomfortably, forks clinking against plates. Behind them, the string quartet faltered on the next chord, as if stricken by the tension. He forced a calm nod. I'm sorry, but the apology rang hollow. Please sit down. Seo-yun turned sharply, gathering her sketches. Her gown trailed behind her like the tail of a comet. No, she said, voice firmer now, heart pounding. I cannot. Gasps fluttered around them. Min Jae's face went pale. He lunged forward, catching her arm before she could step away. Seo-yun, she wrenched free. Tears streamed down her cheeks. Don't call me that, she whispered, voice breaking. Not here. Not like this. Her words landed like stones. The guests scattered, whispering. Min Jae felt the ground shift under his feet. The man he had built, a paragon of control, stood exposed before his wife, before his world. Seo-yun pressed her palm to her belly, drawing strength from the life within. I love you, she said quietly. But if you won't trust me now, how can I trust you with my child? With that, she turned and walked toward the grand doors. Min Jae's breath caught in his throat, her silhouette retreating under the chandelier's glow, vulnerability radiant like a beacon of truth. He reached out, fingers trembling, but she slipped through the exit before he could touch her again. The room erupted in murmurs. Min Jae stood frozen, heart hammering. He had silenced her art, her voice, but now, in the echo of her departure, he realized the true cost. Silence had never been his sanctuary, it was his prison. He lifted his hand, voice breaking as he called after her, Seo-yun, wait! But the doors swung shut. The echoes of her footsteps faded down the marble corridor, leaving Min Jae alone amid the stares of his peers. He closed his eyes, the weight of their expectations crushing him. Suspense coiled in his chest. Would she return to the man she loved, or had he driven her away forever? Her chest tightened. Of course, she muttered through trembling lips. Even my escape is controlled. Pulling her shawl tighter, she stepped into the night, the city lights blurred by the downpour. She hailed a taxi with shaking fingers. Inside, she sank into the seat, panting, and dialed Jiwoo. Yeon? Jiwoo's voice crackled. Where are you? Seo-yun's words came out in a sob. I can't go back there. Jiwoo's tone hardened with concern. Don't if it hurts you. I've rented a room at the townhouse in 2 blocks from the gallery. Come there. Seo-yun exhaled, relief mingling with guilt. Thank you. As the taxi pulled away, Seo-yun pressed her forehead against the glass, watching rain blur the neon glow. She imagined Min Jae alone in that grand ballroom, the chandeliers heavy overhead, calling her name into the emptiness. A single question throbbed. Would he chase her, or let her slip away? Back at the Lee Foundation's ballroom, Lee Min-jae stood rooted beneath the chandelier's fractured light. His tuxedo felt suddenly suffocating, an armor that had failed to protect the one person he cherished most. He watched the final guests drift away, their stares like daggers. Park Hyun-soo approached quietly, rain-speckled lapels gleaming. Sir. She left in a taxi. Min-jae's breath hitched. Taxi? Yes, I checked the exit cameras. The plates match a private request. Min Jae sprang forward. Which direction? Hyun-soo tapped his earpiece. Tracking now. Min Jae's core trembled with fear. Find her. He strode through the empty hall, each echoing step a hammer blow to his pride. His phone buzzed, Jin-woo's name flashing. He answered with a harsh edge. I need to know where she is. Jin-woo's calm voice crackled through the line. She called me. She's at the townhouse in. I'm on my way. Min Jae closed his eyes. I'll meet you there. He ended the call and looked up at the silent, dripping chandelier. The world he had built, empires, portfolios, philanthropic legacies, meant nothing without her. 20 minutes later, So-yun sat on the bed of the inn's spare room, water dripping from her hair onto the pale duvet. Her phone lay face down beside her, the screen still warm from Min-jae's unanswered messages. She pressed her hands to her belly, feeling the gentle flutter of their child, a small beacon of life that refused to let her despair. A soft knock sounded. She wiped her tears as Ji-woo slipped inside, carrying 2 cups of hot tea. The steam curled up like a promise of comfort. "Here," Ji-woo said, handing her a cup. "This will help." Seo-yun clutched it, warmth seeping into her fingers. "I feel so lost." Ji-woo sat on the edge of the bed. "You did what you had to do." He crossed a line. Seo-yun's voice wavered. "But I love him. I need him to understand that my art, my voice, they're not frivolous." Ji-woo nodded. "He will. But first, he needs to see the world without you in it." Seo-yun swallowed. "And if he never comes?" Ji-woo reached out, brushing a tear from her cheek. "He will. Min-jae loves you more than he fears vulnerability." Their conversation softened into quiet confidences as the rain pounded the roof. Each word was a stitch in Seo-yun's unraveling heart. Somewhere in the distance, a siren wailed, Min-jae's urgency made real by the city's restless pulse. At the townhouse and lobby, Lee Min-jae and Jin-woo burst through the doors, umbrellas dripping. The clerk looked up, startled. "Mrs. Lee," Min-jae asked, voice taut. "Is she here?" The clerk glanced at Jin-woo's ID. "Yes, room 204. Min-jae didn't wait. He marched to the elevator, Jin-woo close behind. Inside, he closed his eyes, bracing himself for what lay ahead. 2 floors up, he reached out and pressed the 4. The doors opened. A soft glow from beneath the door's crack revealed Seo-yun's silhouette on the bed. Min-jae's throat tightened as he stepped forward, every step heavy with remorse. He paused in the doorway. His raven-black hair was plastered to his forehead, his tailored suit drenched in rain. He looked broken. Seo-yun sat up, eyes red but resolute. She wrapped the shawl tighter around her. "Min-jae." The single word was a tether. He closed the gap between them and knelt, placing his hand gently over hers. His voice came ragged, raw. "Seo-yun, I'm so sorry. I was wrong." Her breath hitched. "Why?" He bowed his head, shame and love warring in his gaze. "Because I forgot that without you, I'm empty. I built walls to protect my heart, but I ended up imprisoning you and myself." Her eyes glistened. "I needed you to fight for me." He pressed his forehead to hers. "I will. From now on, I'll fight for us. For you. For our child." Outside, the rain began to taper, the storm yielding to a hesitant calm. Inside that small room, Min-jae reached for Seo-yun, fingertips trembling. "Can you forgive me?" Tears slipped down her cheeks as she leaned into his embrace. "I forgive you," she whispered, "but we have to start anew together." He closed his arms around her, heart pounding with hope and fear. "Together," he echoed. Lee Min-jae pressed end call and stared at the rain-spattered window, the weight of their promise echoing in his chest. He turned to Seo-yun, who still sat wrapped in her shawl, exhaustion and relief mingling on her face. "I need to fix this," he murmured, voice trembling. "But I can't do it alone." Seo-yun looked up, concern softening her eyes. "Who can help?" He reached into his pocket and pulled out his phone. "My brother, Jin-woo. He's the only one I trust to handle the fallout." Without another word, he tapped Jin-woo's name. The call connected, and moments later the line crackled. "Hyung." Jin-woo's voice was steady but hushed, as though he could sense the urgency. "Is everything all right?" Min-jae ran a hand through his damp hair. "No. Tonight at the gala, He closed his eyes, swallowing hard. "I drove her, Seo-yun, away. It became a public spectacle. The investors are furious, and Pacific Trust put our funding on hold." There was a brief silence. Then Jin-woo's tone sharpened with resolve. "Where is she now?" "In near the gallery district." Min-jae paused, desperate. "I need you to help me manage this." Speak to the board, handle the press. Keep the foundation afloat until I can make things right. Jinwoo exhaled. I'm on my way. Young, breathe. We'll fix this. Min-jae's relief was immediate but laced with guilt. Thank you, he whispered. But Jinwoo, please don't tell father or mother. They'll only worsen things. I won't, Jinwoo promised. Your secret's safe with me. Min-jae hung up and looked at Seo-yeon, voice soft. He'll handle the business side. I want to focus on you and the baby. She nodded, but a flinch of uncertainty passed through her eyes. Are you sure? He approached her, kneeling beside the bed where she Saturday. Absolutely. He reached for her hand. I'll never put us second again. Her fingers tightened around his. I believe you. An hour later, the lobby of the townhouse inn was deserted except for the night clerk and the hum of the vending machine. The elevator dinged, and Jinwoo stepped out. Raincoat soaked, face drawn from the drive across the city. Min-jae met him at the bottom of the stairs, relief and anxiety swirling in his eyes. You came. Jinwoo clasped his shoulder. Always. He handed Min-jae a slim tablet. I've drafted 2 statements, one for the board, one for the press. And I've assured the investors that you're on a personal hiatus. Family matters, you know how they buy that spin. Min-jae scanned the text. Good, but add a line about our new maternal health initiative. Tie it back to Seo-yeon's art. Change the tone from cold formality to something heartfelt. Jinwoo nodded, tapping the screen. Consider it done. He glanced toward the hallway. How is she? Min-jae's gaze followed his. Through the open door of room 204, he saw Seo-yeon reclining on the bed, eyes closed as she rested. Nestled beside her, their baby's hush of movement was faint but constant. She's safe, Min-jae said, relief softening his voice. You should go in and reassure her. Jinwoo hesitated. Do you want me to? Min-jae swallowed. Yes, you're her brother-in-law now, aren't you? Show her we're in this together. Jinwoo gave a small, affectionate smile and stepped forward. He knocked lightly, then opened the door. Seo-yeon, he said quietly. She stirred and opened her eyes, surprise flickering before recognition. Jinwoo and I, she whispered, relief brightening her features. He sat beside her, lowering his voice. Min-jae asked me to help set things right with the board and the press. You don't have to worry about that. She exhaled, tears brimming. Thank you. Jinwoo reached for her hand. Your family, we protect our own. Later, in a private call with the foundation's board, Jinwoo spoke with calm authority. Gentlemen, he began. Lee Min-jae is committed to this initiative more passionately than ever. Tonight's incident was a misstep born of personal turmoil, not a reflection of his leadership. On the other side of the line, voices sounded wary. Jinwoo paused, letting the silence press. Then he added, we will proceed with the Grand Horizon development on schedule, and we will launch the maternal health drive next week with a gala featuring Mrs. Lee's artwork, making it a symbol of hope rather than controversy. He fielded questions, deflected concerns, and by the end of the hour, the board's anxiety had eased into cautious optimism. He sent the revised press release to every major outlet, framing Seo-yeon's art as the beating heart of the foundation's mission. When the call ended, Jinwoo leaned back, exhaustion tugging at his shoulders. He tapped Min-jae's shoulder. It's done. They're on board. Min-jae exhaled, tension draining from his spine. Thank you, he said, voice thick with gratitude. I owe you everything. Jinwoo waved him off with a wry grin. Just make sure you keep your promises. To her, to the baby, to yourself. Min-jae nodded, determination shining in his eyes. I will. In the quiet of the inn-room, Seo-yeon and Min-jae sat side by side, watching the city lights shimmer through the rain. He held her hand, thumbs stroking her knuckles in gentle reassurance. I asked Jinwoo to help because I couldn't bear to see you worry, he said softly. Tonight I learned that love isn't about shielding you from every storm. It's about weathering it together. She turned to him, eyes shining with tears. Thank you for letting me in, she whispered, and for trusting me with your heart. He brushed a strand of hair from her face. "This is just the beginning," he said. "Tomorrow, we start anew. With honesty, with art, with family." Her smile was radiant, hope blossoming between them like the first flower after winter. Yet beyond the rain-streaked windows, the city pulsed with potential and peril. Investors watching, rumors lingering, the world waiting to judge. She paused, hands trembling as she unclasped a small wooden box. I need to show you something." He crouched beside her, concern nodding in his chest. She opened the box to reveal a neat stack of documents, a passport with her name, and several bundles of cash. "I found these when I packed," he whispered, heart tightening. Seo Yun's breath caught. "I wanted to be prepared," she said, voice barely audible over the hum of the city below. "When we fought, I thought you'd never forgive me. I couldn't bear the thought of dragging our child into that mess. So I planned to leave Seoul, find somewhere safe, prove I could stand on my own before I came back." Min Jae's throat tightened. The passport she'd hidden was stamped with exit dates for Tokyo and Busan. The money could have funded her journey halfway around the world. "You were really going to go?" he asked, voice hushed, as if any louder might shatter the fragile peace between them. She sank to the edge of the bed, closing her eyes. "I love you," she said, voice cracking, "but I was terrified. You'd push me away again. I thought if I left, maybe you'd realize how much you needed me." Silence stretched. Min Jae knelt beside her and took the passport in his hand, feeling the weight of her fear pressing between them. "I never wanted you to feel alone," he said, voice thick with regret. "I should have seen how much pain I caused." Tears welled in Seo Yun's eyes. "I know you love me," she whispered, "but love shouldn't feel like a cage." He slid the passport and money back into the box and closed it gently. "You're right," he admitted. "I made you feel trapped. I promise, from now on, I'll earn your trust every day, not just demand it." He reached for her hand, thumbs stroking her knuckles. "Can you forgive me?" Her gaze met his, vulnerability laid bare. "I forgive you," she said, voice trembling. "But we need honesty, no more secrets." Min Jae nodded, relief and resolve mingling in his eyes. No more secrets. Outside, the city lights flickered against the inn's window pane, but all Min Jae saw was Seo Yun, strong, courageous, and still by his side. "I want to help you feel safe here," he continued. "Not just for our baby, but for you." Her lips curved into a fragile smile. "How?" He stood and retrieved his phone. "Tomorrow, I'll turn our suite into a true home. I'll hang your canvases, set up your paints. I'll even take a week off work to be here with you. No board meetings, no press releases." Seo Yun's chest rose and fell as she absorbed his words. "That's more than I dared hope." He tucked a loose strand of hair behind her ear. "I want you to feel free to be yourself, to create, to breathe. I've built towers of steel, but I promise, my greatest work will be building our life together." She leaned into him, resting her head on his shoulder. "Thank you," she murmured. "Thank you for chasing me, and for never giving up." Min Jae wrapped his arms around her, pressing her close. "I'll chase you to the ends of the earth if I have to." Their embrace deepened, the tension of the night dissolving. Yet beneath their relief, a new question hovered. Could they truly erase the fear that led her to pack that box in the first place? As the rain softened outside, Seo Yun looked up, eyes bright with both hope and lingering doubt. "Promise me you'll let me go if I need space," she said, voice soft but firm. Min Jae's heart ached at her hesitation. "If you need space," he agreed, "I'll give it, but I'll always be waiting, ready to come back when you're ready." She nodded, and for the first time since their marriage had begun to crumble, she believed it. "I'll try to trust you," she said, the words a fragile seed in their shared silence. Outside, the first light of dawn began to filter through the clouds, hinting at a new day. Inside that quiet room, Min Jae and Seo Yun sat side by side on the bed, hands entwined over the closed box of her plans. They had faced the truth of her escape, and in doing so had discovered the path to something stronger. a love fortified not by control, but by mutual faith. Inside the examination room, Dr. Kim adjusted her stethoscope before placing it gently on Seo Yun's rounded belly. The rhythmic thump of the baby's heartbeat filled the silence, a steady drum that both soothed and heightened Min Jae's tension. He reached out, brushing a strand of hair behind Seo Yun's ear. "Everything looks normal so far," Dr. Kim said, voice calm as she offered them a reassuring smile. Seo Yun exhaled, relief softening her shoulders. But before the doctor could finish, her expression shifted. She furrowed her brow, leaning closer to the monitor. "Wait, there's something here." Seo Yun's stomach fluttered. Was it the baby or her own rising panic? Dr. Kim tapped the screen. "These readings suggest mild uterine irritability. So Yun, have you been experiencing any contractions or tightening?" Her eyes searched Seo Yun's face with professional concern. Seo Yun shook her head, voice trembling. "Just occasional cramps, but I thought it was normal. Stress, maybe." The doctor exchanged a glance with Min Jae. He saw the worry pool in her eyes before she spoke again. Stress can indeed trigger preterm labor, especially when combined with physical strain. "How has your blood pressure been?" Seo Yun pressed her hand to Min Jae's, voice barely above a whisper. "A bit high sometimes. I've been anxious." In that instant, Min Jae felt every ounce of guilt he'd carried crash into his chest. He moved closer, lowering his voice to Seo Yun. "I'm here now. Whatever you need, I'll do." Dr. Kim cleared her throat gently. "I want you to rest. Strict bed rest for at least a week, minimal activity. No travel, no long walks, and you must avoid emotional stressors." Her gaze turned to Min Jae. "That means you too. Mr. Lee, you need to take this seriously. The baby's development could be compromised if contractions continue." Min Jae's throat tightened. He swallowed against the lump. "Of course, doctor. Whatever it takes." His voice cracked with urgency. "I promise. I'll protect both of you." Seo Yun squeezed his hand, tears glistening at the corners of her eyes. "I'm sorry," she murmured. "I didn't tell you sooner." He leaned down, brushing her temple with his lips. "Don't ever apologize. You're doing everything right." But in his own heart, he battled a tidal wave of remorse. Remorse for every moment he'd prioritized ambition over her well-being. Dr. Kim stood and retrieved a prescription. "These will relax the uterine muscles. You'll need someone with you at all times, and any sign of bleeding or intense pain means you must come back immediately." She pressed the papers into Min Jae's hand. "And Mr. Lee, consider postponing your involvement in any high-pressure meetings or events. Seo Yun's health and the baby's safety come first." They nodded, gratitude and fear mingling in their expressions. As Dr. Kim left, Min Jae settled beside Seo Yun on the narrow exam table. He closed his eyes, letting the gravity of her words sink in. The facade of invincibility he'd clung to shattered beneath the weight of potential loss. Seo Yun's breath trembled. "I don't want to lose our baby," she whispered, voice raw. Min Jae cradled her hand between both of his. "You won't," he vowed, tone resolute. "I'll be here every step. No more business trips. No late nights. I'll cancel everything if I have to." She looked at him, searching his eyes for truth. "Can you really do that?" He nodded, tears brimming. "I swear I can." He pressed his forehead to hers, the gentle pulse of her heartbeat beneath his lips. "We'll get through this together. I won't let you face a single contraction alone." "Sweetheart," he whispered, brushing a strand of hair from her forehead. "Breakfast is ready. You need nourishment." Her lashes fluttered open. She blinked at him, a gentle smile blooming. "Thank you," she murmured, voice husky with sleep. She lifted the porridge bowl toward him. "You shouldn't be up so early." He sat on the edge of the bed, his heart swelling. "I want to be here every moment." He spooned porridge and fed her, each bite a promise. No more business trips, no more late nights. She swallowed, gaze soft. "I feel safe." He smiled, relief warming him. "Good. After you finish, I'll go downstairs and confirm your rest schedule with Jiwoo. Then I'll clear my calendar, no interruptions." Seo-yun closed her eyes and leaned back. Spoon paused midway to her lips. When she opened them again, her expression had changed, fear flickering in the depths of her gaze. "Min-jae," she said, voice trembling. I need some air." He frowned. "You're supposed to stay in bed." Concern sharpened his tone. "What's wrong?" She took a shallow breath, setting the spoon aside. I'm having a bit of pain. Not like last time, but it's uncomfortable." He extinguished his smile. "Tell me exactly how it feels." He lifted the sheets, placing gentle hands on her belly. Seo-yun clenched the mattress beneath her. "Just tightening, like Braxton Hicks, but stronger." Min-jae's heart pounded. "We can call Dr. Kim." He reached for his phone. "Don't move." But Seo-yun sat up, panic threading her voice. "No, I'm fine. I just want to walk on the balcony. The sea air might help." He hesitated, torn between doctor's orders and her plea. "Okay, but only for a few minutes." He helped her sit up and draped his coat over her shoulders. On the balcony, the salt-laced breeze tangled her hair. She inhaled deeply, eyes closed. Min-jae stood close behind her, hand on the railing, watching her. Awash in relief that she seemed calm. A sudden cramp cut through her midsection. She gasped and sank to one knee. Min-jae whipped around, alarm ripping through him. "Seo-yun!" he cried, catching her as she teetered. Panic flared in his chest. "Are you all right?" Her vision blurred. "I need to sit." She collapsed, and for a heartbeat he thought she'd lost consciousness. He scooped her into his arms and staggered inside, voice shaking as he shouted, "Help! Now!" The door flew open. Jin-woo and Park Hyun-soo rushed in, faces draining of color. "She's having contractions," Min-jae gasped, laying her on the bed. "We need to get her to Dr. Kim." Jin-woo grabbed his jacket. "I'll drive." "Hyun-soo, call the clinic." Min-jae sank to the edge of the bed, cradling Seo-yun's hand. Her breathing was shallow, sweat beading on her brow. "Min-jae?" she whispered, fear flickering in her eyes. "I'm scared." His voice cracked. "I know. I'm here. I promise I won't let anything happen." He squeezed her hand until his knuckles whitened. Park Hyun-soo's voice came through the intercom. "Doctor's on her way, sir. She's sending a nurse with the car." Min-jae nodded, tears slipping down his cheeks. "Get the baby monitor," he told Jin-woo. "We can't risk the baby's safety in transit." They moved as one, Jin-woo blocking the sliding door to give his brother space. Hyun-soo gathering medical kit from the closet, Min-jae brushing Seo-yun's hair back. The seconds stretched taut like a drawn bowstring. When the nurse arrived, umbrella in hand, concern etched on her face. Min-jae lifted Seo-yun gently into her arms. "Please hurry," he pleaded. In the back seat of the car, Seo-yun clung to Min-jae's hand, each bump in the road jolting their fear. Dr. Kim's calm voice issued instructions over the phone. They reached the clinic with siren-quiet efficiency. As Dr. Kim and two nurses rushed Seo-yun inside, Min-jae stood in the hallway, heart trapped in his throat. Jin-woo placed a steady hand on his shoulder. "He'll do everything she needs," Jin-woo said softly. "We're right here." Min-jae nodded, voice hoarse. "I can't lose her. I can't." In the sterile light of the examination room, Seo-yun lay on the table, contractions rippling across her face. Min-jae knelt beside her, fingers woven through hers. "I'm sorry," she gasped, sweat and tears mingling. "I didn't want to scare you." "Don't apologize," he whispered, pressing his forehead to her hand. "You're safe. I'm with you." Dr. Kim's voice cut through the haze. "We need to administer tocolytics immediately to halt these contractions. Mr. Lee, I need you to step outside." Min-jae hesitated, desperate to remain by her side, but the fear in Seo-yun's eyes steadied him. He swallowed, stepping into the hallway as the door closed behind him. In the silent corridor, Min-jae's breath echoed. He gripped the wall, willing time to slow, prayers tumbling through his mind. Each tick of the clock hammered home the fragility of the life inside her. Minutes or hours later, Dr. Kim emerged, mask removed, exhaustion etched around her eyes. Min-jae rushed to her, voice trembling. "How is she? And the baby?" She offered a measured smile. "The tocolytics worked. The contractions have subsided. She needs strict hospital bed rest for the next 2 weeks, at least. The baby's heartbeat is steady." Relief crashed through him like a wave. He closed his eyes, letting tears flow freely. "Thank you," he whispered. Back in the room, Seo-yun rested, for drip in place. Min-jae sat beside her, fingers entwined with hers. He brushed her hair away, voice thick with emotion. "You're the strongest person I know." She looked at him, exhaustion and love mingling in her gaze. "Thank you for being here," she murmured. "I don't know what I'd do without you." He pressed his lips to her hand. "You'll never have to find out." "Jin-woo," he said the moment his brother picked up. His voice cracked. "I need you right now." "Hyung." Jin-woo's concern was immediate. "Are you back already? What happened?" Min-jae glanced at the nurse's station, then lowered his voice. "Seo-yun had another contraction. They stopped it, but she's on strict bed rest, and the doctor wants me to be here with her the next 2 weeks." He swallowed. "I can't leave her side." There was a pause. Then Jin-woo's words came steady. "What can I do?" Min-jae ran a hand through his damp hair, his tailored suit now wrinkled from the night's urgency. "4 things." He held up a finger. 1. Call father and mother. Tell them hospitalization is precautionary. Ask them not to come, it'll stress her. 2. Postpone the board meeting until next month, and arrange a video conference in case they insist. 3. Contact Pacific Trust and reassure them you're handling the Grand Horizon project personally. Promise them full reports by Friday. 4. Find and book the best perinatal specialist in Busan, in case the baby comes early. Seo-yun needs peace of mind. Jin-woo's sigh was soft, resolute. "I've got it all. I'll handle it." He hesitated. "Hyung, you okay?" Min-jae closed his eyes, drawing a shaky breath. "I will be, once I know everything's under control." He opened his eyes, voice steadier. "And Jin-woo, thank you. You don't know how much this means." "Don't mention it," Jin-woo replied. "I'll text you when it's done." Min-jae ended the call and pocketed his phone. He straightened his shoulders, fighting the tremor in his hands. Turning, he opened the door to Seo-yun's room. Through the frosted glass, he saw her pale silhouette on the bed, for drip glinting at her elbow. Her frail fingers clutched the sheets. He stepped inside, and she turned her head toward him, eyes soft with relief. "Where are you going?" she asked, voice barely louder than a whisper. He crossed the few steps to her side and sat on the edge of the bed. Gently, he brushed a damp curl from her forehead. "Just outside," he said. "I needed to make sure everything's settled at home and with the foundation. I promise I'll be right back." Her eyes searched his, lingering on the worry lines that had appeared since her hospitalization. "I hate that I'm keeping you from everything." He shook his head, voice thick with emotion. "You're my priority. Nothing else matters." He tried to smile, but it came out as a quiver. "Jin-woo's taking care of everything. You just need to rest." She nodded, breathing shallower now from fatigue. "Promise me you'll hurry back." He took her hand, pressing a kiss into her palm. "I promise," he whispered. "Now rest." He stood and slipped out, closing the door softly behind him. In the corridor, Min-jae leaned against the wall, tying himself to the moment when he would return to her side. His phone buzzed, a text from Jin-woo. "Father and mother notified. They'll wait at home. Board meeting postponed. Conference call arranged. Pacific Trust reassured. Report due Friday. Busan specialist booked for Tuesday morning." Min-jae exhaled, relief flooding through him. He pressed reply, his thumbs shaking as he typed, "Thank you. I owe you everything." Moments later came Jin-woo's simple response. "Anytime. Go back to her." He folded his phone and resumed the short walk back to Seo-yun's room, each step echoing determination. When he entered, her eyelids fluttered open. "I'm back," he murmured, seating himself beside her. He took her hand again, cradling it between both of his. She offered a tired smile. "Thank you." He leaned down, resting his forehead against her shoulder. "We're in this together," he said. "One step at a time." He closed his eyes and suddenly he was across town, 2 years earlier. Han Seo-yun stood beneath the cherry blossom arch in the gallery courtyard, her hands trembling around a single white rose. Min Jae approached in a crisp suit, far less polished than today, but his eyes bright with something beyond ambition. "Thank you for coming," she whispered, gaze flickering up to meet his. He smiled awkwardly and used to vulnerability. "I wouldn't miss it." He extended his hand, and she placed the rose in it. "Your art, it moves me." Her smile broke like dawn. "That means everything. You're the only one who asked." He remembered the flush of her laughter, the way her hair caught pink petals in the wind. "I'll always ask," he'd vowed then, unaware of how far he'd drifted. The memory faded, and he was back in the sterile light of the hospital room. Seo-yun slept peacefully, for drip steady at her side. He brushed a stray curl from her face, heart aching with guilt for the distance he'd once created between them. Another flash, late autumn, the two of them bundled on a lakeside bench. She pressed her hand to his arm, teeth chattering. "You're too cold at night," she teased, shoulders heaving with laughter. He scoffed playfully. "I build empires from cold logic." She poked him. "You need warmth too. You need me." He remembered the startled look on her face as he wrapped his coat around her, drawing her close. "You're right," he'd admitted. "I need you." Present day, his throat tightened. He placed his palm over the gentle rise and fall of her belly. Inside, their child slept, unaware of the storm they had endured. Min Jae whispered, "I need you now, more than ever." He sank onto the plastic visitor's chair, mind racing. 20 minutes ago, So-yun had dozed off, exhausted from the day's tests. The doctor's warning lingered. Even the faintest sign of stress could change everything. Footsteps echoed in the hallway. Min Jae rose and opened the door. Park Hyun-soo stood there, tablet in hand, eyes sympathetic. "Sir, the press conference is set for next week." Jin-woo finalized everything with the board. Min Jae nodded, voice thick. "Thank you. Please hold off on releasing the full statement until we're sure she's stable." Hyun-soo hesitated. "Understood." He glanced at the open door. "Do you want me to bring you anything? Coffee? I know you haven't slept." Min Jae shook his head. "Just keep me informed." He closed the door gently. He returned to the bedside and cradled Seo-yun's hand. At that moment, the corridor lights dimmed for cleaning, casting long shadows across her pale face. He brushed her hair back again, voice soft. "Soon, I'll take you home. We'll paint our walls with your art, not hospital white." Her eyelashes fluttered, and she stirred. Minutes passed. Then her eyes opened, clouded with sleep but bright with trust. She gave him a tired smile. "You were staring," she whispered. He squeezed her hand. "I was thinking about us." His gaze softened. "Remember our first date? You spilled coffee on my tie." She laughed weakly. "I wanted to make a good impression." He leaned closer. "You did by being yourself." He pressed his forehead to hers. "And I promise, I'll spend every day remembering." A nurse's call bell rang down the hall. Seo-yun winced. Min Jae's heart lurched. He rose and caught the nurse as she hurried in. "We need to run another ultrasound," she said gently. "They'll check the baby's growth and position." Min Jae swallowed. "Is it safe?" She offered a calm nod. "As safe as possible. We need to monitor closely." He returned to Seo-yun's side. She closed her eyes. He watched the nurse wheel in a small machine and help her shift, gentle as a lullaby. As the gel was applied and the probe moved over her belly, Min Jae leaned in, peering at the black and white shapes dancing on the screen. The baby's tiny hand appeared, curled like a fist. A flutter on the monitor, soft as hope. Min Jae's throat quivered. He pressed a hand to his chest, feeling each beat. A vow made real. Hours later, after the nurse reassured them all was progressing normally for now, Min Jae helped Seo-yeon back onto her pillow. She closed her eyes, exhaustion returning like a tide. He sat beside her, brushing his thumb along her knuckles. No matter how many flashbacks or fears, this moment is ours. His voice was steady, but tears glistened. You, me, our child, will write a new future, together. The corridor lights brightened again, and through the window, the sun dipped low over the city skyline. In the fading glow, they held "Good morning, Seo-yeon," he had said, voice gentle beneath the cherry blossoms. His tailored coat hung over his arm, but his smile was tentative, as if he was stepping into unfamiliar territory. She turned from her easel, paintbrush in hand, and laughed when she realized she'd splattered cerulean across her apron. I'm a mess today. He knelt beside her, offering a hand. I like messes. They're where new things begin. He guided her hand to the wet canvas. Show me how you'd paint the world today. Their laughter had mingled with petals drifting in the breeze. In that moment, she had seen the real him. A man whose heart beat faster at the smallest kindness. The memory shifted, and she was seated beside him on a rickety bench by the riverbank at dusk. Min Jae held a single daisy plucked from the bank. I picked this for you, he'd said, pressing the flower into her palm. No boardroom, no strategy, just this. She looked up, surprised by the sincerity in his eyes. It's beautiful, he ducked his head. Not as beautiful as your art or you. Her heart had fluttered, as it did now, remembering the flush of hope that day. In the present, a soft beep on the monitor nudged her back. Seo-yeon opened her eyes to find Min Jae sitting beside her, his expression a mirror of those tender flashes from the past. You were smiling, he whispered. She managed a small laugh, though her voice trembled. I was remembering us. He reached for her hand, thumb brushing over her knuckles. Tell me, he urged, voice husky with emotion. She described the bench by the river, the daisy, the way he had looked at her, as if the whole world had narrowed to that one moment. As she spoke, she felt a swell of warmth in her chest, the same warmth that had drawn her to him in the beginning. Min Jae closed his eyes, leaning his forehead against hers. Thank you for holding on to those moments, he said softly. I've let them slip away, and I'm grateful you still remember. Tears threatened, but she shook her head. They remind me of who we were, and who we can be again. He smiled, a gentle promise in his eyes. We will be. I vow to nourish every memory with new ones. The overhead lights dimmed slightly as a nurse passed by, wheeling equipment down the corridor. A quiet hush settled around them, broken only by the soft rhythm of Seo-yeon's steady heartbeat and the steady beeping of the monitor. Seo-yeon's eyes fluttered open. She turned to Lee Min Jae, who had slept in the visitor's chair. Ties askew, hair mussed from worry. Relief softened his features when he saw her stir. I'll be better in our suite, she murmured. Min Jae nodded, brushing away a loose curl. I've packed your things. We'll take it slow. Back at the Jeju suite, waves whispered against the balcony. Seo-yeon sat heavily on the edge of the bed while Min Jae propped pillows behind her. The air smelled of sea salt and fresh linens. A soft knock came at the door. May I? Jin-woo stepped in, holding a small brown envelope, its edges frayed. Min Jae frowned. Where did you find that? Jin-woo placed it on the dresser. It was tucked between your sketchbooks in the hospital. No signature, but... Seo-yeon sat up, alarm flickering in her eyes. What is it? Without waiting for her to react, Jin-woo peeled back the seal. Inside, he drew out a folded sheet of handmade paper, scrawled in Seo-yeon's delicate script. Min Jae's heart seized as he recognized her handwriting. Seo-yeon murmured, voice quivering, That's the draft of the letter I meant to leave before Jeju. Min Jae reached for the paper, hands trembling. You were going to send this? She bit her lip, tears pooling. I thought if I vanished for good, you'd realize how empty your world is without me. Min-jae smoothed the creases in the paper and began to read aloud. My dearest Min-jae, you may never see this. I love you fiercely, but I can't breathe in the cage you've built. Every skyscraper you construct, every triumph you achieve, it only reminds me how small I feel. I need space to paint our future, not just watch from behind your windows. His voice cracked. Seo-yun covered her mouth, tears spilling over. Min-jae swallowed hard and continued. I was going to leave this here so you'd know. I was brave enough to step into the unknown. I wanted you to chase me, to fight for my return. But I feared your pride more than your love. If you find this, know that I believe in us. I believe you can choose to build a home, not just an empire. Love, Seo-yun. He folded the letter back slowly, the weight of her words pressing on his chest. The room fell silent except for the distant crash of waves. Seo-yun pressed her hands to her belly. I almost did it, she whispered. I almost walked away. Min-jae knelt before her, cradling her hand against his cheek. I'm so sorry, he choked out. I didn't deserve your faith. Jinwoo cleared his throat gently. She believed in you, Min-jae. Don't break that trust again. Min-jae lifted his gaze to Seo-yun. I won't. From now on, every brick I lay will be for you and our child. He turned the envelope face up on the dresser. And I promise I'll keep your letters safe. But I hope you never feel you have to write another one. Seo-yun's tears flowed freely. I never want to leave you again. He stood and reached behind the dresser, pulling out a blank canvas he'd secretly ordered. Then let's fill this with your colors, he said, his voice firm with determination. Show me what you see. Our life, our hopes. Her eyes widened, surprise and joy mingling. You bought this for me? He smiled, a genuine, open smile. I want your art to fill every room. I want to see the world through your eyes. She rose, trembling, and embraced him. He held her close, careful of her hospital bandages, the 4 mark on her arm. I'll paint, she whispered into his chest. I promise. Min-jae stroked her hair. Then I'll be your canvas. Later, Seo-yun sat before the blank frame, paints laid out like a rainbow at her fingertips. Min-jae watched her, awe in his eyes. Each brushstroke she made seemed to breathe life back into him. She painted swirling seashells, soft morning light, and at the center, a tycoon kneeling before his pregnant wife, offering not titles or wealth but a simple white rose. Watching her paint, Min-jae felt the echo of his first gift, the daisy by the riverbank. His breath hitched as he realized how profoundly she had seen him back then, and how badly he needed to see her now. When she set down her brush, the canvas glowed with emotion. She turned to him, brimming with tears and triumph. It's us, she said. Our story. He closed the distance and pressed his lips to her forehead. And it's only just beginning. On a small table beneath the window, the canvas she'd painted lay propped against the wall, its swirling seashells and dawn sky glowing faintly in the moonlight. He stared at the image of himself on his knees, offering her the white rose, and felt a pang so sharp it stole his breath. He pulled out his phone and dialed Park Hyun-soo. Sir. Hyun-soo's voice crackled softly through the speaker. Is everything all right? Min-jae's gaze drifted to the balcony's glass door. I need to see something. Can you pull up our penthouse video feed? There was hesitation. Are you sure, sir? It's after hours. His voice caught. Please. Moments later, the screen flickered to life, showing the empty penthouse office back in Seoul. The polished desk, the wall of windows looking out over the city, and on the bookshelf a row of framed photographs. Some of Seo-yun cradling her belly, others from happier times at their wedding and travels. Hyun-soo narrated quietly, I can adjust the zoom. Min-jae watched as the camera focused on a black and white photo. Seo-yun laughing with paintbrush in hand. Min-jae beside her, eyes alight. Then the image of their wedding day, her in white, him in a suit that now felt like armor. He closed his eyes. Bring me the originals, he whispered. Every photo in that row. I want them here by morning, no exceptions. And a selection of albums from the living room. Yes, sir. I'll have them expedited to the Jeju suite. Min-jae ended the call and sank into the plush armchair. He pressed his palm against his forehead, the weight of guilt pressing down. How many mornings had Seo-yeon woken to an empty bed because he'd flown off to a meeting? How many nights had she painted alone because he was too busy architecting the next big deal? Hyun-soo's earlier words echoed in his mind. Sir, you need rest. But rest felt impossible. His empire had given him everything: wealth, power, accolades. Yet here, in this quiet suite, it had almost cost him the one thing he treasured most. He rose and padded to Seo-yeon's side, kneeling to brush a strand of hair from her face. I'm sorry, he whispered into the hush. I'll never let you feel invisible again. Gently lifting her hand, he placed it against his cheek, his eyes brimming. Your art, your heartbeat. That's what breathes life into my world. He pressed a soft kiss to her palm, and she stirred, blinking sleepily. Min-jae? She murmured, voice thick with dreams. He smiled, tears glinting. Come back to bed, my love. He stood, offering his arm. She accepted, leaning on him as he guided her back beneath the covers. Once she slept again, Min-jae moved to the desk and opened a drawer, pulling out a leather-bound photo album from their wedding. He flipped through pages of candid moments, her giggling as he twirled her under a fountain spray, him wiping paint from her cheek after she playfully flicked it at him. He paused on a picture of them in Busan, standing in front of a lighthouse. The caption he'd scrawled beside it read, "No matter how dark the storm, I'll find you." His hand trembled as he traced the words. At the time, he'd meant it for the metaphorical storms of business. Now, he understood it in its truest sense. His phone buzzed again, this time a text from Jean Woo. Board confirms next week's conference is postponed. Investors satisfied. Everything's under control. Min-jae exhaled. He typed back, "Thank you. I'll handle the rest tomorrow." He closed the album and placed it gently next to the painting on the table. In the soft glow of the bedside lamp, the photograph and the canvas faced each other, two halves of their story, his past mistakes and her graceful forgiveness. At last, exhaustion claimed him, and he lay down beside Seo-yeon, pulling her close. His heart still raced, but within the steady rise and fall of her chest, he found a fragile calm. "Sir Lee," Park Hyun-soo's voice was tight, urgent. "I'm so sorry to wake you, but it's Dr. Kim. She wants to speak with you immediately." His chest tightened. "Put her through." A pause crackled into his ear, then Dr. Kim's calm but serious tone. "Mr. Lee, I hate to alarm you, but Seo-yeon has just gone into premature labor." Min-jae sat bolt upright, the world tilting. "What? Preterm? How serious is it?" "There's risk of distress for both mother and child. We're administering steroids and tocolytics now, but the contractions have already progressed faster than I hoped." He swallowed around a sudden lump. "I'm on my way." She sighed softly. "Please hurry. I need you here." He ended the call with a sloppy flick of his thumb, adrenaline surging. He looked beside him. The suite was dim, empty of Seo-yeon's warm presence. His heart pounded so loud he half expected her to hear it from the next room. He yanked on his shirt and trousers, voice rough. "Hyun-soo, arrange a helicopter. Now. And alert Jean Woo. I need him there too." "I'm on it," Hyun-soo replied. Min-jae grabbed his coat and raced through the suite, hands clenching as he rifled for the letter Seo-yeon had written. But it wasn't there. His stomach dropped. She must have left it behind. The only thing he could hold on to was hope and a vow not to let her down again. Minutes later, the night air whipped around him on the helipad. He climbed aboard, heart hammering. Hyun-soo took one seat. Min-jae paced until the rotors whirred to life. The skyline blurred beneath them, city lights winking out as they climbed toward darker skies. He closed his eyes, whispering, "Hold on, Oh-yeon. Please hold on." The clinic corridor was harshly lit. Dr. Kim greeted him at the door, face pale but resolute. "Mr. Lee, thank you for coming so fast." He nodded, voice raw. How is she? Contractions are strong. She's only at 26 weeks. We're stabilizing her, but the baby's lungs are not fully developed. We need to monitor continuously. He felt nausea rise. Where is she? She led him to the room. Through the frosted glass, he saw Seo-yun's silhouette, sheets drawn up to her chin, face drawn tight with pain. She glanced up as the door opened. Min-jae's breath caught in his throat. She looked so small and fragile lying there, the 4 drip glowing beside her. Her eyes widened when she saw him, and relief, terror, and love flashed in their depths. Min-jae, she whispered, voice hoarse. I'm so sorry. He rushed to her side, grasping her hand. Don't apologize. I'm here now. I'm not letting go. A nurse hovered. Mr. Lee, we need to perform an emergency ultrasound. Please step aside. He hesitated, then released her hand with a trembling apology and stepped back. The nurse and Dr. Kim slipped in, sterile gloves snapping on. In the hallway, Jin-woo appeared, face ashen, eyes rimmed red. He pulled Min-jae into a quick embrace. She's strong, he whispered fiercely. She'll fight. Min-jae leaned against the wall, closing his eyes. I thought we were out of storms. Jin-woo's voice cracked. This one's different, but you're here. Min-jae nodded, steeling himself. I won't leave her. Behind the door, Seo-yun cried out. Min-jae's blood ran cold. He pressed a hand to his mouth, stomach twisting. They need me, he whispered, and strode back in. Inside, the monitor's high-pitched beeps pulsed like wrapped knuckles on his chest. Dr. Kim studied the screen. Baby's heartbeat is wavering, contractions too close. We have to try to delay delivery, but if the baby comes now, her voice faltered. We'll need neonatal specialists on standby. Seo-yun reached for Min-jae's hand as soon as she saw him. I'm scared, she gasped. I'm sorry I left you alone. He bent to kiss her forehead, voice thick with emotion. You didn't leave me. Every heartbeat of yours is in my soul. We're in this together. She squeezed his hand, drawing courage from him. He directed a look at Dr. Kim. Tell me what to do. She pointed gently. Stand here, hold her hand, speak softly. Your presence helps reduce her stress. I'll handle the medical side. He knelt, embedding his gaze in Seo-yun's. Yeo-yun, he said, voice steady despite the tremor in his chest. You are the bravest person I know. Our child is fighting for you, and I'm right here, every breath, every second. She closed her eyes, leaning into him. The nurses adjusted the machine. Dr. Kim administered another dose of tocolytic fluid through the 4. Outside the room, Jin-woo and Hyun-soo conferred urgently. They're stabilizing her, Hyun-soo said. But we need to call the hospital in Busan, prepare the NICU. Jin-woo nodded. Already on it. Minutes passed. Felt like hours. Each beep echoed in Min-jae's ears until it blended with his own heartbeat. He recited memories to her, soft words. The daisy by the river, the canvas in Jeju, the next blank sheet waiting to be painted with their future. He repeated each promise. I'll be here. I'll protect you. I love you. So-yun's grip tightened, tears slipping down her cheeks. I love you, she whispered. Then Dr. Kim's voice cut through. The contractions have slowed. For now, she's stable, but we need to move her to the intensive maternal care ward. I'll escort you both. Min-jae nodded, relief surging. He kissed Seo-yun's hand. Let's go home, he said, voice trembling with hope. As the door closed behind them and they were led down the corridor, Min-jae felt the world shift. They had faced the gravest threat yet, premature labor, the terror of losing their child, and they had survived. But beyond this ward lay uncertainty. The fragile weeks ahead, the question of whether their baby's lungs would bear the fight, and whether Seo-yun's strength would hold. A young nurse hovered, adjusting machines. Your blood pressure is climbing again, Mrs. Lee. We need to monitor you closely. Seo-yun winced. It's the worry, she whispered, voice trembling. I'm worried about the baby. Min-jae leaned in. They're doing everything they can. I'm right here. The door opened and Dr. Kim entered, flanked by a stern-faced neonatologist. We ran the latest Doppler, Dr. Kim said quietly, and there's increased resistance in the umbilical artery. The baby isn't getting enough oxygen. We need to deliver within the hour, an emergency cesarean. Seo-yun's eyes widened as if the words struck her chest with ice. Now, she gasped. But I'm only 26 weeks. The neonatologist, Dr. Park, knelt beside her bed and spoke gently. We know it's early, but the longer we wait, the higher the risk of distress. We're ready with our neonatal team and the incubator suite in or 3. Min-jae's skin went pale. His throat worked. Is there any other option? Dr. Kim shook her head, sympathy softening her eyes. No, this is the fastest way to get your baby breathing. Seo-yun closed her eyes, panic and something fiercer, determination, stirring inside her. She turned to Min-jae. Promise me you'll be there when I wake up. He squeezed her hand, voice raw. I swear, when you wake up, I'll be right here. They wheeled her toward the operating suite. Min-jae walked beside the gurney, heart hammering. He met Dr. Park's gaze. Will you do everything possible? Dr. Park gave a firm nod. We've assembled the best team. We'll fight for your baby. Moments later, Seo-yun was backlit by the OR's blinding lights, surgeons swarming around her like guardians in white. She squeezed Min-jae's hand one last time. He bent close to her ear, voice trembling but steady. You're the bravest woman I know. I love you. See you soon. Tears spilled down Seo-yun's cheeks as she whispered, I love you too. An anesthesiologist offered her a mask. She inhaled, and her vision blurred. Min-jae watched as her hand went slack, then a curtain was drawn. On the other side, Dr. Park and the neonatal team awaited the baby. Min-jae stood just beyond the scrubs, heart pounding like a drum. He clenched and unclenched his fists, knuckles white. 15 minutes felt like a lifetime. Then faint cries pierced the sterile air, softer than a full-term newborn's, but unmistakably alive. Dr. Park held the tiny, translucent form before the warming table. Min-jae exhaled a shuddering breath. His voice cracked. Dr. Park offered a small, tired smile. She's breathing with support. Her lungs are small, but they responded. Min-jae's eyes brimmed. Her? Dr. Park gently nodded. A girl. We'll keep her under observation in the NICU for now, but she's fighting. Min-jae felt tears spill free. He whispered, Thank you. Over and over, voice hushed. As they closed the incision and prepared to move Seo-yun to recovery, Min-jae allowed himself a single, shakily joyful breath. His daughter was here, fragile and brave. After what felt like hours, they eased Seo-yun into the recovery room. Min-jae slipped in beside her, his own gown now sterile and stiff. She lay pale but alert, eyes wide. Min-jae, her voice was thin, but it carried the same strength he'd always known. He brushed hair from her forehead. She's here, he whispered. Our little warrior. Her gaze shifted toward a small incubator visible through the glass window. A tiny figure lay inside, connected to soft whirring machines. A faint, rhythmic beep echoed like a promise. Seo-yun's eyes glistened. Can I see her? Min-jae rose and guided her wheelchair toward the glass. As they approached, the NICU nurse opened the door and lifted their daughter into Seo-yun's arms, swaddled in a miniature blanket. Seo-yun's tears fell freely as she cradled her baby's fragile form. The newborn's tiny fingers curled around her mother's thumb, a small grip full of will. Min-jae knelt beside them, placing a gentle kiss on Seo-yun's hand. He whispered through tears, Welcome to the world, my love. He hurried forward, breath-catching. Seo-yun. She turned, exhaustion etched into every line of her face. Yet the moment she saw him, her entire posture softened. Carefully, she lifted their newborn, swaddled in pink blankets, and stepped into the corridor. The baby's tiny eyes flickered open, meeting Min-jae's gaze with a fleeting curiosity. Min-jae closed the distance and knelt before her. His voice cracked as he reached for Seo-yun's hand. She's perfect, he whispered, awe and relief mingling in his tone. You both are. Seo-yun's lips trembled in a tired smile. We went through so much, she said softly, cradle tightening. I was scared I wouldn't hold her. He pressed his forehead to her arm. I was terrified of